Hey, this is Travis from Low Player Count, and I am super excited to be sitting here with Mark Swanson of Oddbird Games, the designer of Feudum. So, Mark, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Travis.
Yeah, so Feudum is a really interesting game because apparently it's been around for a while, but just recently over the last couple months I've started seeing all of this buzz being generated about it. So just where did it come from?
It came from my head.
Okay.
Several years ago, I want to say about 5 years ago, was the germination of the game. I've been playing games for, 15 years, 20 years. Well, actually all my life, but Euro-style games since the early let me think about this. I'm going to say late 90s.
Okay.
Late 90s. Okay. The first game I ever found out about was a game called Cartagena. It was about escaping from an island prison. And inside the box there were some little pamphlets to other Euro-style games, and that's when I found out about Settlers of Catan and Tigris and Euphrates. Kind of an old schooler. Some of those early ones from the Aliyah bookshelf games, the hoity-toity, and they actually renamed that one. I'm trying to think of some of the other early ones. I mean, all of the greats, Power Grid and Agricola, and I'm into Zulkin lately, which is kind of a cool one, the Mayan calendar.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, when you played as many games as I have, eventually you say to yourself, well, what would be the game that I would invent? And I knew that I wanted to create something unique. I mean, the Holy Grail is to come up with your own mechanic and not just rehash the other ones that are out there, but come up with something unique. So I set out to create a game that was open world. That was kind of like my first thought is I wish there was a game where you could, do anything you wanted, but the game still hold together thematically. And of course, I knew I had to be medieval, even though that theme has been done to death.
But it's not the traditional medieval. I mean, you look at we'll talk about this later, but you look at the artwork, you look at the box, and yeah, sure, you hear about guilds and this and that, but it's not this staunch 16th century grim looking dude just on the cover, I mean, it is bright and vibrant and different and interesting. So medieval, sure, but it's not the traditional style of things, definitely.
Well, now you're touching upon my sense of humor. Yes, medieval, but definitely whimsical. Actually, it's kind of a combination between serious and whimsical because it's a heavy Euro, and if you juxtapose that with kind of this whimsy, you have this kind of natural tension, I think. I found out about this artist. I actually was in a local ice cream shop, believe it or not, called Sparky's, getting some ice cream. And I looked on the wall, and it was about the same time I knew that I needed some really great artwork for my game. And I saw a poster, and it was of a local band, and it featured this giant behemoth peering around a mountain, and it looked very menacing, but it also looked kind of childlike. And I liked this combination of, daunting situation. I could get crushed by this thing, but also he looks kind of silly. And I like that. And so I said to myself, that's the cover of my box. It's got to be. And so I tracked down this artist and I said, I'm this guy. You don't know me, but I love your artwork. Do you want to partner with me? And to my surprise, he said yes.
How did he take the idea of doing artwork for a board game? I mean, is this anything that had ever been on his radar, anything he'd even thought of, or
no,
did he even know anything about the scene, I guess?
No, not really. And this is 5 years ago. So, I thought to myself, well, do I want to get an artist that is already established, that knows about iconography? Because, I mean, it's its own discipline, really. And there are risks involved in not going with an artist that has had, experience crafting a board game. But I went on his website and I looked at all the different kinds of illustrations that he had already done. Everything from, posters for bands to, labels on I want to say jelly. He's done beer labels as well, and his style is very. There's kind of an etching quality to it, kind of a cross-hatching etch-like quality to it, and I loved it. And so I thought, well, what he doesn't know, he can learn with regard to, creating elaborate iconography. And really, I got the best of both worlds because he, in addition to being an illustrator, he's also worked for advertising agencies and has done a fair amount of graphic design. Okay. So you marry layout and art direction with, fine art, the fine art of illustration, and you got the best of both worlds because he can design my board and my rule book.
Gosh, no joke. Yeah, and let's. So what's the guy's name actually? Because we haven't talked about that. Yeah, give him some credit.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not just my artist; he's my friend. I mean, we became really good friends. His name is Justin Schultz. He lives in Jackson, Mississippi. Mm-hmm. And initially, I just knew him through email. My initial email to him was ridiculously long. I just rambled on and on, and then he somehow it spoke to him, and he sent me an equally long email, and I could tell just by the nature of his writing, and there was chemistry already, just in how we communicated to each other. And I told him, that's it. I'm gonna hop in my car. I'm gonna drive to you. And I drove 9 hours, and I met him. We went out for some beers. I shared the vision, got to know him, and I guess we were off to the races from that point on. He played a prototype of my game. I introduced him to the entire world of German board gaming.
Oh, cool.
We played other games. I wanted him to get it. And now he gets it, and now he's like, how could I have been missing this whole world of board games? So I had a convert along the way, I guess.
Oh, that's cool. That was actually going to be my next question, to see if he had continued on. Because, I mean, obviously this is a podcast and we can't really show pictures of it. But, I mean, people listening, just definitely hop on Board Game Geek and look at Feudum. It's Feudum, in case you can't read what this episode is titled, right? But with that being said, I mean, it is stunning. It is stunning just how everything is laid out. I would be real surprised if after this game comes out, more people don't seek him out. More people, and I'm sure there might be some smatterings of that going on already, because people, obviously, designers and publishers, are on top of things far more than us general content creator media folk. But I'm sure people are already talking to him, or will be soon.
That's a fear of mine, actually. I told him, I said, look, don't get famous too quickly, because I want to partner with you on, the next game. I mean, already he is on board for some expansions, which may get unlocked via the stretch goals. But I'd love to, be a long-term partner with him. So we'll see where that goes. But no, absolutely. I wish him the most success, and I hope that he designs other games and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm in fact, one of the things that I early on, when I was trying to sell him on the idea of why he should partner with me for not a lot of money, was, hey, this could launch your board game design career, But at the time he didn't believe it, but maybe he will now.
Yeah, who knows? So 5 years in the making so far. So you're a first-time designer then, right?
Yes.
Okay. So first-time designer out the gate, throwing all this stuff on Kickstarter. So you keep calling this a Euro game, and so what are kind of some of your designer inspirations? Like I'm not saying that you pulled that you pull mechanics from other games, but just what were the games that really just kind of clicked with you so much that you went, man, I wish there was a unique twist I could play on that, or I love the general scope and idea of that game. How can I make it my own, or how can you see where the influences of other games have really pegged you and got you to where you've created Feudum in its current iteration?
Sure. Wow, that's a great question, because I think that, when you play so many board games from so many wonderful authors, things start to kind of subconsciously brew in the back of your head, and it's hard to kind of really pin down who your influencers are. But I mean, my favorite authors are Martin Wallace. The fact that he can do something like as heady as Steam, but then go have fun with Moonga Invaders. Have you ever heard of that game?
Yeah, I saw that. I
actually lost that game. I can't find that game. But or someone like Reiner Knizia, and how prolific he is, and how sometimes you can be playing a game and you just kind of forget who the author is, and you look at the side of the box and it's like, oh yeah, of course it's Reiner. Yeah.
Sure.
How many games did he make, for crying out loud?
20 a year at least. It feels like,
and like lately I've really liked a lot of Rosenberg's games. Not just, when Agricola came out, I was pretty thrilled. But then Caverna is one of my new favorite go-to games. Stefan Feld. I like heavier games. When I say heavier, I'm talking about Dominant Species and Through the Ages and Terra Mystica. I don't think I saw someone the other day post on my Facebook feed, that Terra Mystica was overly complex, and I thought, well, there's a lot of games more complicated than that.
Yeah.
Try playing Virgin Queen or Here I Stand, or how about this one? Have you played what is it called?
High Frontier.
Frontiers. That's we spent 2 hours landing on Mars.
Yeah. That's the Phil Lachlan Sierra Madre game.
Yeah. That's probably one of the most complicated games that I've played.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple guys here local in Dallas who play High Frontier at least once a month, and all I have to do is just walk by the table. Just kind of go, and I love Phil Lachlan games, but I just kind of walk by the table and go, one day, today's not that day, but one day that's going to happen for me.
Well, I don't want to scare anyone off. I wouldn't call Feudum as complicated as High Frontier, but it is nuanced. It does have depth. One reviewer called it crunchy. That was James Hudson over at Druid City Games, and yet in the same breath he said, this is going to be a top 10 game, and in fact he posted on a blog, Game of the Year 2017 ? And I just laughed. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you? Don't say that. It can't be that good.
But I mean, yes and no. I mean, you definitely you have the right mindset, right? You want to have the humility going into this, But with that being said, I mean, there's definitely something that is encouraging for you, especially as a first-time designer, somebody who has lived in this world for so long of playing of playing the games that you play, and then being able to. There's something about creating something and putting it out there and people going, no, this is really outstanding. And so, congratulations a little bit early on, at least emotionally, of getting some of those reports back from people, regardless of what happens, regardless of what 2017 looks like in terms of board game releases, right? But it's still really good and really encouraging for you to hear that first time out the gate.
It's especially encouraging when you hand over your game to a reviewer. You haven't taken them through it. You've just handed them a rule booklet, and they figured it out themselves, and they love it. Mm-hmm. That's the ultimate for me, and really encouraging, because in many situations I'm there holding people's hands. I'm a living, breathing, walking rule book of my game. right?
Yeah.
And what seems intuitive and easy and transparent to me might be obtuse to the next person. So just being able to present the game through iconography, illustrations, and rules is one of the biggest challenges of creating a board game, especially a heavier board game. So I like to think that I've done a decent job simplifying or articulating, I should say, the rule set.
Mm-hmm. What I've learned over the years is that just because you read a rule book doesn't necessarily mean that you understand how dense or how heavy the game is. You know, I mean, you have a game like Arkwright. Have you played Arkwright or at least seen it? Right. So Arkwright, this massive game that came out in 2015 from Spielworks, and it has like this 35-page rule book, and it's a Euro game, right? 35-page rule game, and it is in. There are hardly any pictures. I mean, it is dense, and there are 3 versions of the game, and each version of the game has its own 15 to 20-page rule set for it, right? And so you look at that and you go, this is going to be a heavy game. I just know it's going to be a heavy game. It's going to be a heavy game. But then you get a game like Splotter, Food Chain Magnet that came out last year, and you go through the rules, and it takes you 15 minutes to explain the game, and you're about 50% through the game, and then you go, oh, my brain is starting to melt. And you can't get that from the actual rules. You get the rules, and you sit down, and you start playing it, and you go, okay, this isn't that bad. And like, because you're just doing small things as you go, and then as the game unfolds and develops, that's whenever you realize, oh, this gets heavy. And so what I love is that you've given me the opportunity to actually go through your rules as well, which I'm very grateful for. As I said, it's something I absolutely love being able to do. And so going through your rules, there was nothing that made me go, man, this is going to be super heavy. But once again, the beauty of it is that it doesn't matter, because it's not until you actually sit down at the table and you start playing with it that you go, okay, this is tricky. Like, one of the cool things that I love is that you have differentiated difficulty levels. You have kind of the base beginner game, and then you have advanced rules that are kind of plugged in. And I'm already thinking from the get-go, okay, that's cool. That's a fun advanced rule. And then I start looking at the advanced rules going, oh, that's going to be really tricky in terms of card play and what I have out there and what's going on and how the board is set up. So I'm excited to actually sit down in front of it and see how it happens, because I know it's going to play out way differently than what's in my head just from reading a rule book, you know?
I do know. And one, you know, everyone's different. Some people, when they open a new game, they curl up in a corner like they're reading a good book, and they just read the rules. You know, I'm like that. I love reading the rules. I like the tactile experience of flipping through the pages, the glossy pages, you know. Sometimes I'll even sniff it, you know. No, maybe I won't.
It's okay. You're in safe company here.
But other people, they want to learn by someone teaching them, and still others want a video. I'm finding out that, you know, in this world of video content, people start to have an expectation of the video, at least a video playthrough, being online. I get asked that question a lot. So what I did and what I've committed to is and I know this is going to sound crazy, but a 29-minute fully animated rules video.
Awesome.
And that is coming out in a few days, I think. Actually, probably about a week after I make sure that there are no, you know, glitches. But
sure.
So I'm really excited about unveiling that, because what I think it'll do is it'll make the game, like a game like Feudum, more accessible to a wider audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's, you're right. I mean, everybody, as you said, everybody learns in a different way. I'm just like you. I am give me the rule book and just let me sit in a corner and read it. And I love it. And that's how I learned the game. And I feel bad because whenever I'm playing a game and somebody's teaching it to me, I absorb as much as I can. And then at some point, I am that person that goes, hey, can I see the rule book real quick? And it's not to second guess what they're doing. It's just, I need to look, because I need to make sure that what I'm doing isn't wrong, but I also don't want to give away my strategy in what I'm doing as well. Right. And I'm just like, hey, we're talking about, where's that general concept in the rulebook? You give me a page number. But you're right. I mean, videos are where it's at. you know, in terms of getting ideas out, in terms of getting just kind of general hype building, because it's super easy to share that, scrub through that and go, I know where that's going to be. I know what that's going to look like. That's a really neat thing. Let me stop here and rewind that and actually go back and look and see what's going on there. And then you're right. People are going to be able to learn it as well. So 29 minutes of an animated rule set. That's pretty cool. It's ambitious. But that's awesome. I think once again, you're building hype and you're explaining, which is important.
I was inspired by a video that laid out the game Scythe by Jamie Stegmaier. Mm-hmm. And I think, now if I think about it, you know, it's the first game. Wow, I hadn't really thought about this, but it is. It's the first game that I learned entirely by a video. And this is just recently. Scythe came out recently, but I sat down, I watched the video, and I knew how to play. And of course, I would refer to the rule booklet here and there. But what's interesting about, say, a rule booklet, a physical rule booklet versus a video is the video script is a lot fewer words than the rule booklet because you have the benefit of demonstrating things visually. Mm-hmm. And so people are learning not just by listening to the narrator, but they're seeing the pieces being moved around the board, and so you can leave out things that you couldn't leave out in a rule book. So it's just that you're using multimedia, you're using words and visuals to communicate something quicker.
Mm-hmm. So true. So we've actually been dancing around Feudum this whole time. And so, like, I mean, we know it's medieval based, and we know there's some Euro inspirations, but what else? Like, what are like some of the main mechanics of the game, or what's the crunch of the game, or the storyline, or the whatever, like give people as in an audio format to the best of your ability, right? What is Feudum?
Well, I'll start out with the theme, I guess. So you have been banished, and you have been exiled from your homeland, and you a journey to a new land, a strange land, and you have to reinvent yourself. And you're with two other blokes. So everybody controls 3 pawns, and these 3 pawns are reinventing themselves so they can come into the game as one of 6 medieval characters. So there's a number of combinations that you can play. You can play with 1 pawn. You can have 3 pawns on the board, but each one is a different medieval character. Or you could be the same. 2 of them could be 1 character. And you have a knight, an alchemist, a noble, a monk, a merchant, and each character has a different power. In the middle of the board, you have a map. On the outside of the board, you have 6 different guilds. And in the middle of the map, there's area control. You're vying for control of different regions. And then on the guilds that flank the map, you're vying for prestige in the local guilds. Both are instrumental in helping you score veneration points over the course of 5 epochs. And at the dawn of each epoch, there is scoring. And then there's scoring at the end of the game as well. And then there are other ways that you can score points immediately as well. So there's immediate game scoring, epic scoring, and end of game scoring.
And all this comes through a card play.
Yes,
right?
Yes. It's action programming is the major mechanic. You have 11 action cards, and you look them over, and you select 4 of them. And you, each person in turn order plays 1 of their 4 selected action cards, and you go around the board until all cards have been played. And once that has happened, that's 1 round. Then you have to feed all of the pawns that you have on the board.
That's a good Rosenberg mechanic right there.
Absolutely, that horrible sensation of not being able to feed your people, horrible / delightful.
No joke.
And
It's always the worst part. You have this last action that you have to do, and you go, I could do this for X amount of points. I could do this for these resources that I need, or I could do it to get 2 stupid loaves of bread. I guess I'll do the 2 stupid loaves of bread, right? And it's the worst feeling ever because you know you're setting yourself back. But this sounds like a game that is very much there is so much stuff that you want to do, but not enough time to be able to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Good.
In fact,
right in my wheelhouse, right there.
In fact, there's truly multiple paths to victory in the game, and you know what? During playtesting, what I did is I assigned distinctly different paths, and I would say, this is what you're going to be doing, this is what you're going to be doing, and so on. Not that anyone would just, choose one path, because in a game, typically circumstances change, and you have to be opportunistic and alter your strategy and take advantage of low-hanging fruit sometimes. But I wanted to just have people pursue unique paths so that I could find out if each path was somewhat balanced. And I did a fair amount of collecting data on multiple paths to victory, and got the game very balanced that way. And then after that, then I didn't tell anybody anything. I let them choose different paths to victory. And what's interesting is to see people choose a little bit of path A, a little path D, and throw in some C now and then. And it's very eclectic in that way. So, like, for instance, like, you could, when you go out there and start ruling locations, right? You place a little influence marker on top of a location disk to rule it. Because you're ruling, you gain additional prestige in the correlating guild. But you can actually, if you're the second person to arrive at a location, you're a serf. Someone can also out-influence you, even if you're the ruler, and bump you down to a serf position. So suddenly, you're losing some influence in the guild, and now you're a lowly serf at a location. However, not all is lost, because only serfs in the game can tend a landscape. A landscape, can be an orchard, or a silver mine, or a sulfur mine, or what's called the butts. The butts were kind of they abutted against land, and that's where the peasants would practice archery.
Sure.
And these are all different landscapes that only the serfs can tend, and there are veneration points associated with those landscapes, and you get a reoccurring resources that come to you at the dawn of every epoch for having one or more landscapes in place. So that's just one example of how the person kind of on top doesn't necessarily run away with it, but someone who has been bumped down now has another strategy they can employ to stay in the game.
Oh, that's interesting. It's multiple levels. You have multi-tiered system. That seems interesting. Yeah, that's kind of that because that entirely does change your trajectory. I mean, you could, I'm assuming, try and get more influence, like you said, and jump back up on top if that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Or you could just say, screw it, I'm moving on to something else, and take your position and try and jump up to elsewhere, or stay as that serf position and try and get more points that way. So it's interesting. Right. That's
Another thing you can do is you could just focus on playing your dutiful role and facilitating the cyclical economy. There's an ecosystem in the game. People ask me, what is the unique mechanic in the game? And I would say an economic ecosystem where a farmer pushes goods to the merchant, who marks them up, who then sells them to the alchemist, who then invents crud, which is Danish for black powder. Basically, there's gunpowder in my game.
Okay.
Or that he invents different vessels. The knight sends emissaries to the noble, and the noble will give land grants to the monk, who then will then take these rosary beads, and you can use the rosary beads as ways to increase your harvest. Essentially, you're praying for a good harvest, and then that goes back to the farmer guild. So there's a complete rotation of resources, and you can focus on facilitating this economy and score veneration points for doing that. And you can spend a good amount of the game just doing that, or marrying that strategy with another strategy, which is to spread out over the board and try to amass a very large kingdom.
So this is coming out on Kickstarter. It's going to be on Kickstarter November 10th. So that's coming up really, really soon. This is your first time doing anything on Kickstarter. Are you excited about it? Are you nervous? I mean, what are you feeling right now?
I'm resigned to my fate, whatever it is. I'm nervous. I'm terrified. I really want to do well. I hope I've done everything I can to get the word out. And I don't know what to expect. I've read about, other people's campaigns. I've read that, you kind of know how you're doing within the first few days, and I read that you should probably take the day off work, when you launch. Actually, I don't have plans to do that. I actually have to teach a class. I have to teach a lecture. I'm a professor here at the University of Missouri, so I have no plans to call in sick on that day.
Sure.
So I don't know.
You're gonna have to turn your phone off and all your email notifications and everything. It's just gonna be blowing up, I'm sure, in some capacity, good or ill. More than likely good, I would assume. But still, I couldn't imagine. I'm a teacher and I do a lot of public speaking stuff as well, and I can imagine being in the middle of doing that with my brain going over here while I have to focus. I mean, we've all been a part of that. We've all had to do that stuff at some point, but I can imagine this at all.
It's like an IPO in a way, I mean, Oddbird Games is about to go public, I guess. So.
Sure. So what are we going to be looking for on the Kickstarter? I mean, do you have any super secret stretch goals that you can't share, or I think I saw something about expansion stuff, that content that's already there and up and available. I mean, what are some things that we're looking at aside from just the basic, this is Feudum, here you go?
Sure. Well, my goal is $49,000. But then I have stretch goals at $10,000 increments beyond that. So at 59, people get this royal starting player marker. The player marker is upgraded. At 69, it unlocks the first expansion, which I have a complete rule set for, and a box and rule booklet and additional pieces, including a little windmill that actually spins.
Oh,
that you can
cool.
place right on the board. At 79, there are these foil stamped Royal Writ cards that add some more intrigue to the game. Then at 89, the next expansion gets unlocked called Seals and Sirens, and you get there's a little mermaid even. It's my children tell me I need to put shells on her, like in The Little Mermaid. I said, it's going to be small enough and discreet that that's not going to be a problem. I wanted to, be true to the fable.
Sure.
And then at 99, there's more foil stamped cards that are even rarer. And then at 109, there's the final expansion, and I would be thrilled. People are asking me a lot about the expansions, and I told them, well, let's just see if they get unlocked first. But I'd be thrilled to death if they did. Mm-hmm. Play tested all of them, and they over the years, I've purchased a lot of expansions, and there are things I like about expansions and things I don't. And sometimes expansions, in my opinion, change the base game. I wanted to make sure that they just augmented and truly enhanced the base game and integrated in a very seamless and flavorful way. And I think each one of these expansions does that. In fact, you can play with all three of them at the same time, and it doesn't feel cumbersome. It just feels a little meatier. So I'm happy about how they turned out. Beyond 109, I mean, I don't know. However, my artist and I, we talked about how it would be a dream come true to work with Playdeck. Have you heard of Playdeck? They've done some amazing things with with Agricola and with Lords of Waterdeep.
Yep.
Having an AI player so that you can play solo would be fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, us and our podcast, I mean, that is what we focus on, is a bunch of 1 and 2 player games. That is our bread and butter. And so I love the idea of app integration for that. Instead of, and because, we always, those of us in the solitaire gaming world always sit here and go, oh, well, they're just going to toss in a solo variant and we really just don't care. Going to feel that it's tacked on and it's not really. But whenever you're able to digitize that and actually make it think to a degree, right? It
Right.
turns it from being well, let's just do this thing over here, and this is just what happens, and it's a flow chart that you're following instead of a thinking thing that just happens for you. So that's super cool. That's exciting to hear.
Yeah, depending on the AI, it's essentially a 2-player game.
Mm-hmm.
One of my playtesters, Tim Maylander, told me that he thought that playing with 2 players, he said it could be even more fun and challenging than playing with a group. He's played with 2, 3, 4, and 5 players, and at first he was a little bit skeptical because 2-player games sometimes aren't as intricate or nuanced as a 3 and 4 player game. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I consider a success or a triumph in Feudum is it really is an enjoyable 2-player game. That it opens up the board and kind of allows you to try different strategies, but still kind of maintains the same feel and the charm of the game.
Because it sounds like you're still having to push through this ecosystem within the game for it to function, and so you still have to pseudo work together to make that happen, regardless of whether it sounds like it shifts the purpose and the intentionality of the players from a multiplayer game where you are in a multiplayer game, whenever you have, say, 4 or 5 players that are all kind of putting a little bit into the ecosystem and then a little more into on the board, it just shifts the perspective of, okay, now we really have to start pushing into these other places to make stuff work, while also focusing. Sometimes 2-player games can be harder and crunchier, using the word that you said earlier, because you have to think in a larger scope instead of just, oh, well, that guy's going to handle that area over there and I'm just going to ignore it. Sometimes you have to go, okay, well, dang it, I have to handle that too now. And so you really have to shift what you're going to do and how you're going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the major differences is in a 3 and 4 and 5 player game, multiple people are in each guild, because you have a guild master who rules the guild, then you have a journeyman, and then an apprentice comes into the picture with a 4 and 5 player game. But in a 2-player game, you could be the only one running that guild, so you have a little more responsibility. There's also this thing that happens sometimes where people deliberately thwart the flow of resources through the game because they don't want to assist their neighbor on their right. There's something called a feast in the game, where if you are in the same space as your opponent, you can play a sulfur out of your wine barrel. A sulfur used to preserve wine in medieval times, so it's representative of wine. You play a sulfur out of your wine barrel, and you can take over your opponent's guild powers while they are, shall we say, incapacitated. Yeah. So you're basically doing what they're failing to do, but you're scoring bonus points for doing it as well. So there's a built-in incentive to go ahead and play your dutiful role, or else.
Well, man, this sounds fantastic. I'm really excited to see it officially come out and to see it unveil. Best of luck on the Kickstarter. I guess everybody needs to make sure that they check out Feudum on Board Game Geek. There are going to be links there. Obviously, there's a Facebook page as well, I believe,
yes.
For Feudum that has a bunch of stuff. So I'm actually going to stop doing your job, and I'm going to say, hey, why don't you at this point tell people how to get in touch with you and how to check out Feudum maybe before the actual Kickstarter goes live?
Sure. Well, I've made my Kickstarter preview page available, so you can go there. It's oddbirdgames.com/Feudum. and that redirects you to the Kickstarter page. And you can leave comments. You can interact with me. I go there every day, and I interact with backers. And of course, you can. Yeah, there's a Facebook page, facebook.com/Feudum, Feudum. There's a website, oddbirdgames.com, which has links to everything. There's an Instagram. If you're into Instagram,
all the cool kids are.
It's at Feudum Game, and then Twitter as well, at Feudum Game. So lots of different ways to connect with me and my artist, Justin.
Awesome. Well, Mark, thanks for taking some time out to talk about it. I said best of luck. I think it's going to go great. So we'll just look forward to seeing what comes out of it. All right.
Thank you so much, Travis.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks a lot.